Da-da-dun, da-da-dun. And we're recording. Da-da-dun, da-da-dun. Welcome to the Movie Bros podcast, your favorite podcast where you come to listen to people talk, debate, and review old and new movies. I am Nary Science. With me, as usual, is Chad. Say hi, Chad.
Hi.
And we have back Mike Valdez.
What's up?
No relation to Chad, by the way.
No.
Tetris. Today's movie is Tetris. We got two movies. We got Tetris, like I said, and we have Prince of Persia. Sands of Time. The Sands of Time. Tetris came out this year. It actually came out like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, something like that. I forget. It's an Apple Plus movie, original movie, and it is. Let's see what it says here for the actual synopsis. Hank Rogers discovers Tetris in 1988 and then risks everything by traveling to the Soviet Union, where he joins forces with inventor Alexei Pajitnov. I got that right. To bring the game to the masses. That's a pretty good general synopsis. I like that synopsis.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that. So the movie came out a few weeks ago. It's an Apple. It stars some decent looking guy, Taron Egerton. That's fine.
a decent looking guy.
Eggsy.
Right? So, he's all right if you like that. Ooh, look at me, I'm perfect in every way kind of.
Yeah, if you like the "ooh, I'm perfect," and also I have a British accent when I'm not acting. Like,
oh, I can sing and dance.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. God, I hate it.
Ooh, and I have a 6-pack. Whatever, bro.
yeah,
If you like that
outta
kind
here.
of weird shit, sure. Yes, yeah, he's fine. He's fine. So, anyways, let's go through the around the whole. Mike, what are your first thoughts of the movie?
I thought this was a really cool way to make a video game movie because, and I was gonna tell you guys this fun fact. I think I'm allowed to say this, but I auditioned for a Dance Dance Revolution movie that is coming out in a couple of years. Now, I didn't get it, which is why I don't really care that I'm telling this story. But when I was reading the outline, I was like, what am I going to be? The Left Arrow? Like, how am I going to make a movie about this? And that's kind of how I felt about Tetris. Like, I was like, how can you make a movie like this? And then I was like, is it going to be like Pixels, man? Like that Adam Sandler movie where it's like, like they're kind of aliens, but they're not. And then it's like, no, it's actually a biopic about how this thing was made, and it involves Russians, so it's obviously going to be violent. And like there's a lot of cool stuff. I also feel like this movie didn't deserve an R rating. That's just my opinion. I think it's just because they said fuck a couple times. That's really the only reason.
If you could only say it once and be PG-13, if you say it more than, I believe it changes from time to time, but I believe now it's either once or twice that you could say it at most.
Yeah.
And then more than that, you get rated R. Yeah.
And I believe it also with PG-13, it can't be like a sexual fuck. Like you can say, oh fuck, but you can't be like, I'm gonna fuck you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so
it could be like, oh fuck, you're coming to get me, but it can't be like I'm fucking you and I'm coming.
Yeah. That would be bad, I would imagine, or for the rating.
Right. Yeah. So
even saying that just killed our YouTube.
Yeah, you probably just got demonetized.
Yeah, just shadow banned.
Edit so much out.
You got shadow banned right now. Just
yeah. So, but anyway, this movie is really fun. It's. I don't know. I didn't think it was incredible, but I didn't think it was like bad. My highlights for me was like the 8-bit animation. Like I thought that was really cool. Like all the 8-bit animation stuff. I thought personally, this is just my idea. When I was watching Taron Egerton, I was just like, they could have easily put Paul F. Tompkins in this movie. Like he looks like Paul F. Tompkins, at least to me. I don't know if you guys know who that is.
I know it is. Yeah.
He's a comedian.
World's
yeah,
smartest man.
Yeah, and yeah, I was like, they could have easily put him in there. But yeah, Taron Egerton has the good-looking, face and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I thought this movie was pretty good for what it is. I enjoyed it. It's definitely, I will say this for sure, it's the best Apple Plus movie I've seen.
Okay, all right. That's a hot take, I guess. Chad.
So I went in thinking it would be good because I learned about the Tetris story, like how crazy it was that the whole licensing and going to Russia and all this stuff. Because most of it is what they showed in the movie is true. And I learned about that maybe a year ago, and then I saw the previews for this. I'm like, oh my god, they're going to tell that story. And I didn't think it was going to be amazing, right? I thought it would be like, I'll watch it over here and I'll play World of Warcraft over here. And I can't tell you how long my character just sat there and I was staring at the screen. It enraptured, like I was really interested in the whole thing. Maybe because I'm also a lawyer, so the licensing thing also got me.
Chad's jerking off to Tetris. Like, I don't have the portable rights. You're like,
get into the copyright laws, please.
So, and it was a good chunk of my childhood, like the Tetris. Like we played the hell out of Tetris on Nintendo, and,
of course,
Game Boy growing up, and like it was actually one of the games that I got with my Spanish grandmother. She loved that game, so we would always play together. It was one of the few games she could play. Anyway, the whole story was very interesting. I thought the dramatics of it all were great. They did just enough, like the Russians are really bad, and like how the Soviet Union's kind of going down at the same time. I thought that was interesting. The one guy in the things like Tetris is going to be the downfall of the Soviet Union because nobody's doing any work. It was. I thought they did a really good job all around. I loved particularly the slimy Russian, the guy that was trying to profit at the end.
Oh yeah.
He was pretty good. I thought everybody did a bang up job. Even the stupid, like I missed her singing. That whole bit still tugged at my heartstrings because I have kids now.
Yeah.
And just the whole lot went. Yeah, the ending where it all works itself out. It was good. I liked it. I really dug it.
Yeah, I was very excited when I found out about the movie, which was like 2 weeks before it came out. Like I was like, what the fuck?
Sure.
Like I didn't know this movie was even existed, much less being made, much less about to come out. And then so I was super excited to watch it. And then in the very beginning, Mike, because you brought up the animations, I was just like, oh, that's cool, like the 8-bit animation, whatever. And then they did it so often in the first 5 minutes of the movie. I'm like, oh fuck, come on, dude, this is all this movie's gonna be, is like this fucking. And so I was kind of frustrated with the amount of times that they did it. However, as time went on, they did it less and less, and I realized why they did it. I'm like, because there's so many players involved. By players, I'm not no pun intended. I mean, there's so many people, there's so many entities involved.
So many blocks and tiles,
Yeah,
right,
exactly. they literally have to be like that. They did it for people like me. That I was like, because there are times where I'm watching a show or a movie where I was like, wait, who's and then you have all these names, these Russian sounding names. I'm like, which was that one again? So they did it for people like me who are like, this is player 2. Remember we talked about this. Player 2 is the inventor of the game. And so I'm like, but I was frustrated at first when they did it a lot within the first 5-10 minutes of the movie, and then after that it eased up obviously. But I was like, oh, this is. But I dug the fuck out of this movie. I watched this movie at 1:00 in the morning.
Yeah, that's when I watched it.
I fully intended. This was about a few days ago. I fully intended to go to sleep to like watch it, so that to get me sleepy, so that and then I could just go to sleep, and then I'll pick it. Tomorrow morning I'll watch the rest or whatever. And by the time I even blinked, I was like, how much time is left? I'm like, I wasn't sleepy at all. And I was like, oh, there's only like 20 minutes left. But I was so intrigued by this whole story, even as somebody who's dumb, that knows nothing about licensing laws and nothing about even the verbiage. I was like, what does that even mean? But it was so interesting to me, the way they did it. They added enough Hollywood bullshit to keep a dummy like me be like, oh my god, because that car chase clearly didn't fucking really happen. And then I read up on it, and that car chase didn't happen. But
yeah, I'm not shocked.
Yeah, but I'm
sure Russia, if they really wanted to, could have shut down the airport.
Dude, I fucking absolutely, dude. When that scene where they show the Game Boy for the first time,
yeah, that was really cool.
Oh, that was awesome.
I was like, oh yeah, oh there it is.
Yeah,
it caught me so off guard because he said sign this NDA, and he goes,
Right.
why?
Only 10 people.
Only 10 people on Earth know about this, and quite frankly, I don't trust you.
I love that.
I still even then didn't think to myself, well, what is it? Like I fucking the way they framed the shot from bottom up, I was just like, and
I didn't know what it was gonna be. Game
I didn't know what it was gonna be, and then it fucking and I lived through this motherfucker. Like I know that it was the game, and I was like, oh
yeah,
I thought it was
seen it.
the way he suggested that the Game Boy be packed with Tetris instead of Mario was a brilliant move. Something which, by the way, I read up on, and it's true. He did. Yeah. And I thought it was fucking great, dude. I'm like, what? Because it did a great job of. At first, you think this guy's a sleazy salesman, right? Because that's basically what they portrayed him to be. And then you start realizing, one, he actually has really good ideas, and two, as he said in the movie, he was like, he was a game designer by trade, but now he's doing more sales more than anything else. But he really loves the game design part. And I was like, and I totally, as somebody who has to be this salesman of shit of art. That's how I feel, where I'm like, I really wish that, there's a whole, and Mike knows what I'm talking about, where it's like, I wish I could just do my stand-up and just worry about doing my stand-up. Yeah. But that's not the game that we play nowadays with social media. Like I have to be worried about, am I putting out enough content? Am I putting out reels? Am I sharing enough? Am I coming up, now I got to come up with creative ways to tell people that I have a new reel up, and I got to do like all of this stuff. And there's a part of me that's like, there are times where I'm like, am I just being a whore? Like, am I just like
oh, you are.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, I mean, no. So is everybody who wants to put something out.
But the phrasing is, am I just being a whore?
Right.
Or am I, or like, that's, so I'm trying to find that, like, but I totally related with him when he said, like, I find myself being more of a salesman these days, but I'm a designer by heart. And I was like, yeah, man, yeah, fucking me, say it, preach it, brother, preach. But I dug the fuck out of this movie. I thought it was great, man. I mean, there were certain scenes where they build the tension so well, where you think the KGB is gonna knock down the at that party, and it turns out that they were in Japan.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, they got to his family, bro.
Yeah, I 100% thought they were gonna raid the party, not go into the
yeah, I was like, oh fuck, and it was they built the tension so well. And then I love the fact that they made these 80s references where they're like nice Levi's, and like you forget in the 80s Levi's were the shit, boy. Like, you had like, you know what I mean? Like I remember having a pair of Levi's, being like, I have one pair of Levi's and 3 Bugle Boys. Like there's like Bugle Boys were the fucking cheap version of Levi's, and so I don't know, man. I just
that whole kill him with blue jeans and rock and roll thing.
This movie, when it comes to like the era that they're trying to shoot for, it's really great at reminding you at what time you're in without being annoying. Yes. Which is what a lot of movies and TV shows do. Even Stranger Things to a point does this, where it's just like, hey, you want to get a vinyl record and put it on my record player because we only listen to records in the 1980s? Like, it's like, bro, we know. Like,
I think the only part that bothered me, but it was poignant, or not bothered me, but to your point where it's a little too annoying, but it was poignant because they were in Russia. They were like, I need a phone. I can't get a phone. Because we're so used to just being like, oh, look, I have a phone.
Yeah.
Oh, that, everybody forgets.
I thought it was great that they did that because it taught me something. I'm a dumb American, where they were like, yeah, you have to wait. Do you have payphones? Like, yeah, you have to. I literally go, I have to make a phone call. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, you have to go to the hotel and make a phone call out of your room. Like, that's what I thought, because I'm a dumb American. And then they were like, no, well, there's a phone in the hotel. And he goes, yeah, but you gotta wait in line. How long? And I thought it was gonna be like 8 hours, and they said it could be a week. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, that's, and it literally reminded me that line was made for dummies like me who don't realize what true communism looks like.
Right.
Because I'm like spoiled to live in America, and I'm just like, oh yeah, you have to wait a week to make a phone call, and then that
isn't
phone
there
call,
a point where he's like, isn't there a point where they have a back and forth like that, where he's just like, well, that's just crime, and he's like, no, it's communism.
Yeah.
Yes, there's something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's where he says, haven't made any money off of it because the government makes all the money and they split it up. And he's like, well, that's a crime. And he's like,
Yeah,
no, that's communism.
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I dug the heart of this movie. I did read up that some people were offended at the casting of Egerton because the real person is Indonesian,
Oh,
so they
okay.
thought that it was whitewashing, even though they
Whatever.
did put a part in the movie where he has Indonesian heritage.
Yeah.
Mm.
But
Yeah, he said
then
it's like I'm born in New York but lived in Tokyo, part
yeah,
Indonesian somewhere in there. Yeah, whatever.
where he was born there, yeah. So it's all this stuff that, and I was like, oh, okay.
Weirdly, all those people are very happy with the casting of Jake Gyllenhaal in Prince of Persia.
Oh yeah,
But
absolutely.
We'll get to
Even
that.
I thought that was bad.
We'll get to that later. Anyways, but yeah, I dug the hell out of this movie, man. I really I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought it was grip, like it literally, like I feel like a movie poster, like I'm describing him, like it was fun and exciting and gripping. Like I was like glued to the
Yeah.
screen, like
It's been
okay,
it's been a while since I've like even at late at night when I want to do two things at once, I can usually do it because whatever the movie is good, but it's not super like ripping your gaze over here. And I literally could not stop watching.
yeah,
Yeah.
So it was that good.
yeah, man. I was very impressed with it. I was very I like the fact that they even from the very beginning where they broke it. I know that they were like every piece has 4 blocks, and I know there are people like what. Every piece does have 4 blocks, and like I know that there's people that did that, and I remember because I remember when I first heard that probably years ago, that every piece has 4 blocks. You start thinking, does every piece have 4 blocks? You start thinking that shit, right? And then yeah, I just liked everything about it. I liked I dug the hell out of it. I ended up liking the guy, and again in the beginning of the movie, he's a sleazy salesman, and you don't
Yeah.
really feel like you should like him. You're like, oh, this guy's just a sleazy
It
salesman.
it also took a while to get used to his mustache.
Sure.
That mustache
Yeah,
is definitely there, man.
yeah, I mean, I wanted to ride. But
Yeah, exactly.
but I like the fact that he was a sleazy salesman in the beginning, and then when he gets to Russia, you realize, and he at one point verbally says it, but even before he says it, you realize, oh, he's the only one that's being honest. He's the only one that's being helpful. Um, Reading up on all the shit that happened with the billionaire and the that he was that all that happened. Like the guy took that publisher, that billionaire publisher, stole millions of hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, 990 million. I read that last night.
Yeah, and I was
Whoa.
like, Jesus, what a
Yeah.
and I mean, brilliant. I thought it was great. I was like, he was literally Lex Luthor. Like he was just that guy where I'm a billionaire and I could, you know what I mean? And I'm
do
like,
whatever I want.
yeah,
Gorbachev is my friend, baby.
yeah, Gorbachev was
Yeah.
my friend. And I was just like, wow.
I love that Gorbachev told him to basically go screw himself, though. That was
Yeah.
nice.
I'm so dumb. This is how dumb I am. I thought Gorbachev was the president of Russia.
Well, I mean,
I thought he was,
Yeah.
kinda.
Usually the presidents of Russia have like game licensing and all that stuff.
Yeah,
going
I'm sure
on.
that's really what they're worried about.
but they
Biden has
said it.
the
They showed him.
Grand
They
Theft Auto
showed that
license.
he was like the secretary of, he wasn't really the president. He was like the secretary of what, like there was a guy ahead of
Yeah.
him, right? There was a
No,
guy.
No, he was the head of it. He was the leader of the Communist Party or Supreme. I don't remember if it's Chancellor or whatever, because I don't think it's that Star Warsy. But the because I just watched a bunch of Star Wars, so that might be in my head.
No, but the
Yeah,
USSR
it's funny
is
that you
very
say that
Star
'cause I
Warsy.
don't think I've
Yeah.
ever heard Chancellor when it's not in a Star Wars reference.
So
Is
it's yeah. I mean, the guy was basically the head of the Communist Party, so therefore the head of Russia, essentially.
he was the former yeah, it says is Soviet Russian politician who served the 8th and final leader of the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
So right, he was a former president of the Soviet Union.
Yeah, okay. So he was
Why
president.
did I think in the movie I thought that they called him something else?
I think they called him Secretary General or something, which is
That's
another
what
way
that's what it
another
was.
way
They
of
called
saying
him
it. Yeah.
secretary. So I was like, oh, he's just a secretary. Go get me some fucking coffee. And that's what he was.
Answer
He's
my
the
phone
general
call.
secretary. Why isn't he generally getting us coffee? Jesus Christ.
God damn it, Gorbachev, get your shit together. So this is how dumb I am. Before the movie, I thought, oh, Gorbachev, he was the president of the Soviet Union, right? That's what I thought, right? And then as I'm watching the movie, I hear secretary general secretary. I'm like, oh shit, he's not the. I'm so stupid. I thought he was the president. Yeah, that's how dumb I am. That I thought I was dumb for believing that he was the fucking president when I was right the first time. And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, he's not. He's just the general secretary. You know why else I believe that is because during that final scene when they were giving a speech in a plaza. It wasn't him giving a speech, Gorbachev. It was somebody else giving a speech. So I just assumed that the secretary stood next to the main dude giving a speech. But I was obviously I'm wrong. Yeah. So all right. So Tetris on Rotten Tomatoes, users have it at 82% certified fresh. I posed a question to you guys, Mike, Chad, the Valdez brothers. Audience score, higher or lower, and by how much? Mike.
I mean, I say higher for sure.
Okay.
What's the critics?
Critics is 82.
82.
Certified. 82 certified. 82 based on 176 reviews.
How many reviews for the audience?
Over 1,000. It says 1,000.
Over 1,000. Okay.
1,000 plus.
I'm gonna go 86.
Okay. Chad?
I'm gonna go 91.
Oof. Mike won this one at 87. 87.
Man, I should have gone with my birth year. I knew it.
Yeah, man, that's a pretty good. What would you rate it between 1 and 5? What would be your rating in your rating system, Mike?
I would give it four blocks. That's what I would give it.
Yeah. I knew the first person was going to steal that.
Yeah, I'd give it 4 blocks. It was amazing. It was. I mean, I don't think it's the best movie I've ever seen, but for what it is great at what it's doing.
I bet you Dance Dance Revolution movie is going to be about the making of Dance Dance, because Dance Dance Revolution was another video game that kind of took over the planet for a certain amount of time.
Yes,
well, given the
I
fact that
never wanted to play it, but I saw it a lot.
Given the fact that my audition scene had dialogue in it, I realized that it was probably about the licensing or something. Because
I imagine there's not a lot of story behind Dance Dance Revolution.
Yeah.
But it never stopped them before. Look what they've done in the past.
Yeah, you're
games
right.
that have zero storyline.
One of my favorite things was when they made the Emoji Movie. I was on the radio. I was on Big 105, and then they were like, "Oh, the reviews are in for the Emoji Movie, and it's gotten awful reviews, and it's getting like whatever percentage it was at Rotten Tomatoes." And then Paul Casanova, the radio host, asked, "Go, but what are the reviews saying?" I'm like, "They're saying angry emoji, thumbs down emoji."
That's very funny.
vomit emoji, sick emoji. It's a whole thing. It's really bad. It's not doing well.
Poop emoji.
It's not doing well.
Yeah, funny enough. Well, that's another rant for the thing. But yeah, if you can tell a good story, it doesn't really matter. And actually, this movie, I'm not saying it's going to go across the board, but it gives me kind of hope for that movie Air, the Michael Jordan thing. Because I'm like, if they can make this interesting, curious to see what they did with Air, like Hollywood in general.
Yeah.
I don't think Ben Affleck has missed as a director, to be honest with you.
And that's part of what gave me hope to start with, was that Ben Affleck is directing. Yeah. But I was just like, I don't know if I really want to sit down and watch a movie about a shoe. But like
I'm a shoe guy.
I do.
You're a shoe guy. Okay, so
I'm sure you saw. I'm sure you saw World of Warcraft, Chad. I'm sure you went to go see that shit.
That actually has a story. I don't know.
That's a story,
yes,
man.
Of course, I did.
That's real.
The story
that's
you
real.
made up.
You don't understand.
That's
real.
Yeah.
Real. Chad, what would you give it? What would be your rating in your rating system?
Okay, so I'm gonna give it 4.5 license agreements.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. 4.5 license agreements. I'm gonna give it 5 out of 5 Game Boys.
Nice.
I'm going all the way. I love this. I realized that the last few movies that we've done, that we've reviewed, I've given like 5 stars. As far as the newer movies, Dungeons and Dragons. What was it?
But that was more arguing. Dungeons and Dragons. That was amazing.
Yeah. Well, if you're our friend Jeff, you would argue that, I guess.
I have to talk to Jeff if he has a different opinion. We're gonna have a conversation.
I don't know if it's changed, but he told me my gut reaction was 7.5 out of 10. That's his gut reaction, which is not a 5 out of 5.
No, I mean, it's not terrible, but yeah, it's okay. So
that's pretty about his gut reaction. I don't know I don't know if it's changed since. But all these newer movies that I'm like a 5 out of 5. I'm realizing I'm being a 5 whore, just giving this shit out like. Um, but I'm not like that with every movie because you'll
No,
see
definitely
next.
not.
You'll
Yeah.
see next.
Yeah.
All right. So general consensus Tetris 2023. We dug the movie. I like the fact that his character not only helped a lot with the licensing, obviously, or majorly with the licensing, but also helped with the design of the game, with
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
making the
Absolutely.
lines disappear. By the way, I love the fact that they started their own company, the
Yes.
Tetris company, right?
Mhm.
If you download the Tetris game now on your iPhone or whatever, the one thing I
Oh.
don't like, they have different modes, which is fine. I'm fine with that. But the one thing I don't like is that when you play the marathon mode, I don't know if this is the same thing for the other modes. But when you play the marathon mode, which is what we're all used to, they no longer count lines. They
Oh,
with the
interesting.
way they do it is by points. And obviously
Yeah,
the
I have
points
seen the points thing. Yeah.
so the points, obviously, if you get like 4 lines at one time, you get more points or whatever. But I'm just like, I don't give a fuck. How many lines did I clear? Like that's what I want to know. Like, this
Yeah,
is
of course.
bullshit. So I was literally, which by the way, this movie, another thing this movie made me do is I was like, I'm gonna go play Tetris. I was
Mhm.
like,
Yep.
fucking now back to
Oh,
play
yeah.
Tetris. And
It made me want to play it. That's why I
I know.
downloaded it. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
much harder, by the way. This so much harder on a phone than it is with a controller.
So true. Yes.
It's
Because
just
it's real easy to make it go.
it's real easy to fuck that up real
Yeah.
good, man. And so
Also, how many lines did I clear is something that a lot of people said in the 80s.
Yeah.
But
For multiple different reasons.
oh shit, that got me.
Well done.
I made Mary do a spit take. That was great.
Touche. Um, how many lines did I clear? There was an episode of Just Shoot Me where remember the girl, the lady who plays the retired supermodel
Hmm.
in the show. She was talking to the main character, and the main character was talking about she went on a date with an actor. She's like, and then we went over. We went to my place and we went over we did a couple lines, and she was like, and didn't it make the sex so much better? And like, what? Well, the script we went over. He had an audition. He had an audition. And she's like, oh yeah, and I just scenes like that just live in my head rent free, man.
Sure.
All right, so that's take one for the movie Tetris 2023. Moving on to take two is Prince of Persia. So hold on, let me get this. All right, so Prince of Persia came out in what was it, 2008?
I think it's 2010.
2010, you're right. Sorry, 2010.
Yeah.
2010, the official synopsis is in the holy city of Alamut. Alamut? I don't want to mispronounce that. I'm not trying to disrespect it.
Oh, it's an Alamut, but
Alamut? Is it Alamut?
Sure.
Uh,
That's just me.
in the holy city of Alamut resides the sands of time, which gives mortals the power to turn back time. After leading an attack in the city, Dastan, which is played by Jake Gyllenhaal, the adopted son of Persia's king acquires a dagger that gives the one who holds it access to the sands. Dastan goes on a run with an amulet princess named Tamina. After being accused of killing his father, the pair must protect the ancient treasure from dark forces and unmask the king's assassin. Little wordy, but yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
That's the synopsis. Mike, is this
Yeah,
the first time you saw Sands of Time?
it is. It is the
Wow.
first time I saw Sands of Time.
Mhm.
Don't you regret it?
Yeah, I remember seeing the trailer and the poster, and I was like, nope. And the only reason why I watched it was because I had to.
There's a lot of movies that at some point doing a movie podcast, there's going to be movies where you only watch just for the podcast. You're like,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
This is,
yeah.
you know.
Well, I will say this before I started, because Prince of Persia is on Disney Plus, I started by watching the new Simpsons short, Maggie Simpson, Rogue. It's called Rogue in something. It's a Rogue One reference.
Okay.
And it was very good. A lot of Mandalorian references, very cute. Loved it. Definitely best part of Prince of Persia. Now, I went and I saw Prince of Persia. And I mean, I will say this: I grew up on the games, and I love the games. They were so fun. It was so fun to like have the the time element and like all that stuff, and like if you got stabbed you'd be able to turn back time and be like, no, I stab you in the throat or whatever, and that was really fun. But yeah, man, this movie just felt to me like it was just like, all right, Pirates of the Caribbean is big, so let's just do that, but with a character that's kind of like Aladdin mixed with Moses, and give him a crazy dagger that has a Back to the Future thing in it, the flux capacitor in it or whatever. And that's kind of how I felt like. And it's, to be honest, like, it's funny that when you said their names, I thought his name was Dylan the whole time. Like,
I watched it.
It would have been better.
I watched it with captions, so I knew his name was Dastan.
Okay,
but I get what you're saying.
I'm sure you also knew the princess's name. I just called her Princess Hotness the whole movie. So, because she was very hot.
Her, hey, chicken baby.
Yeah.
That's what Mike is like. Mike is like, I just called her hot chicks.
Yeah.
Hey, hot chicks. Hey,
she's very, very beautiful.
Hey, sweet ass, how you doing?
I mean, that's not what he said.
You got very jerky boys all of a sudden. Like, I just called her sweet tits. Like, what? Take it easy, Mike. Jesus, man.
Yeah. If I had the dagger, I'd go back another minute to see.
I can last longer this time, I swear.
Yeah. No.
Wait, that's not how it happened.
So weirdly enough, I think the best parts of the movie were the parts that were like the action scenes, because they were like going so fast that I couldn't see that it was Jake Gyllenhaal. Because here, and let me explain myself. It's not that I think Jake Gyllenhaal's a bad actor. I think he's a phenomenal actor. I think he's actually one of my favorites. But the thing about him,
better than his sister.
Yeah, and one thing I will say is, like, there are people in this movie where they are bona fide A-list stars, and they become the character. Sir Ben Kingsley, for example, he's in this movie and he is that character. Sure, is the character bullshit? Absolutely, but he is that character. Alfred Molina, he's in this movie. Is his character absolute bullshit? Absolutely, but he's great in it. Jake Gyllenhaal, the whole time I'm like, what is Jake Gyllenhaal doing in this movie? Like, oh, is Jake Gyllenhaal going to do this now? Is Jake Gyllenhaal, like, it's kind of like when Beyonce's in a movie, like, you're just like, oh, cool. So now, like, Beyonce's in Austin Powers, like, she doesn't play a character. She just plays Beyonce, So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of how I felt. It was very just like, I don't know. And also I tried as much as I could to remember it's 2010. So given the fact that it's 2010, this is probably like the best video game movie that we've had like ever at this point.
I think Resident Evil was better, but
oddly
I loved Resident Evil.
In my other podcast, Mount Geekmore, where we do the Mount Rushmore of any given topic, we did the topic of video game movie.
Mm-hmm.
Or video game movie adaptation, and Prince of Persia unanimously won first place for the best movie video game adaptation. Amongst others were, but the bar was not set high for that.
The bar's not high in general right now, so it's gotten better.
No, I mean, well, it can't get worse. It can't. I don't think it can.
No, it really can't.
Starting with the original Super Mario Brothers, I don't think it could get like. And again, I'm a fan of that movie, but for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, sure. Exactly.
I'm a fan of that movie for all the. But anyways, I get what you're saying. Chad, is this your first time watching Prince of Persia?
No, I saw it in the theater because I'm a video game whore, so I will go watch anything they put out, even though I know I'm going to despise it. Mm-hmm. And most of the times, because it's like until I think Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, if you have a book or a video game movie with an actual story, God forbid you actually follow the story,
right?
And keep it the same, as opposed to no. This is, to me, this felt. I mean, they did some of the stuff at the sands of time. It's like so many movies that are adaptations. It felt like this was a script in need of a license. Mm-hmm. Like somebody wrote this crap and then it was like, oh well, that's not going to do it on its own. Slap Prince of Persia on it. And
you're right.
That's really what it felt like. And to me, it's Jake Gyllenhaal was miscast, I think, in this one. He just didn't
same.
He gave a fuck. And a lot of this stuff, but you're right. Like a good A lot of the other actors did great. I love Ben Kingsley because he's amazing in most things. But
He's,
to me, it's
he's always
like
good.
Jeremy Irons in the original D&D movie. You know, like
Of
you can
course.
go all in on your character. It doesn't mean the movie isn't shit.
Yeah.
And you know, there are certain aspects of the movie that I did dig. You know, I did like the action scenes. I did, you know, like the overall scenery and stuff like that. They did a fairly good job. But it was just like it was missing the stuff that I thought made the Prince of Persia games really fun. A lot more rewinding, a lot more over
I was missing the fucking spikes in the floor. I'm like, where the fuck are
right. Where are the
floor?
spikes? Where's the overarching commentary? Like I don't remember which Prince of Persia game it is. I think it's in most of them, but I've only played like 2 or 3, and it's just brain dead on me which ones I played. It's been a while. But like every time you die, they're like, "Oops, that's not the way it happened. Let me do it this way." You know, and that was like part of the gag. And you know, stuff like that could have easily been inserted.
But that's kind of what they did here, where they killed him and then he went back.
Yeah, but I mean, there's no like random commentary about that. You know, like it could have been whatever. It could have been in there. It's like
I only played the original Prince of Persia on PC.
Oh,
okay. That's way back. Yeah.
I did not even own a PC. My cousin owned a computer back then. We didn't have a computer, and I remember every time we would go to her house, I would ask to play it, and of course, because I'm the youngest brother, I would always get like, "Okay, I've played it all that I wanted to. Now you can play it. Oh look, we're leaving now." It's like, oh motherfucker. So I never really even played that. Like I'm being honest, I played it few minutes at a time.
Yeah.
But I really dug the whole. I mean, that's the only Prince of Persia. But there was no voice, there was no story. There was just like, get to the fucking door. Your whole point is to get from point A to point B without dying. There was no point to the story. There was not even a princess is in the other castle kind of fucking story. There was nothing. There was no storyline.
I know I played the Xbox version first.
Oh, I'm sure. Like I read up on it. I read up on this whole thing, and they talk about like, oh, this movie borrowed from, and they literally went through like they mentioned 2 games.
Well, the Sands of Time is actually a video game.
Yeah, exactly.
So I didn't even know that then, but they said that the movie borrowed from Sands of Time and another story arc from another one of the games, and I forget what it is now. But yeah, so they did mention that, but when I read that on Wikipedia, I'm like, oh, I just always pictured Prince of Persia games being storyless, like just it's a fun puzzle game. Like, how do I get here? How do I get through? Right, exactly. That's what I thought it was. That's what I just assumed, because that's my only knowledge of Prince of Persia was the original PC game that had none of that storyline shit. Fair. So I will say this, guys. Everything you said are all valid points. I really fucking dug this movie. Now, I will say this. With that said, I'm fully like, it does not hold the whitewashing does not hold up well in 2023. No. It's fucking very evident. Like it's painfully like it's like uncomfortable. Like as soon as he comes up on the screen, you go, no.
Yeah, because you can tell they even like darken his face.
Yes.
Yeah, like come on, man. If you really, it shouldn't have been that hard to find.
It's real bad.
Here's the thing. Like I'm one of those people. Like one of my favorite musical of all time is West Side Story.
Yeah.
Right. And I that was my favorite musical for easily 15 years before I learned that aside from Rita Moreno, nobody else is really Hispanic in that fucking movie.
Right.
And it blew my fucking mind. And then I got angry real fast. I was like, what the fuck? And then you start looking back at that movie and you go, but they were brown. And you're like, oh shit. They were like, they literally brown. Fucking everybody. So but then you start put things in perspective, right? Like, oh, this movie was in the 60s, it was filmed in the 60s, and blah blah. It's a different time. People were stupid back then, blah blah, stuff, whatever. Yeah. But then you go watch Prince of Persia, and you're like, this is 2010, guys. This wasn't 1960 where you like you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like you watch Spartacus. I just watched Spartacus for the first time ever a week ago, and you're like, look at all these slaves, and you're like, man, these slaves are fucking mighty white.
Yep.
Every slave
have a lot of shoe polish, huh?
Well, no, because remember also the Romans enslaved a lot of Europeans.
Right.
But you're right.
But they didn't only enslave Europeans.
No, they enslaved everybody.
No, exactly.
They were equal opportunity enslavers.
That's my point. I'm like, why does every slave have to be like? There's only white slaves. You don't have any other kind of really. We're just gonna go ahead and forget about the other kind of. Okay, that's cool. When you can literally count the amount of black people or people of color in a slave movie with one hand, and by one hand I mean one finger. There's literally
Yeah,
one
I know.
black slave in the
And
entire film of
Spartacus,
fucking
yeah.
Spartacus, and you go,
Yeah.
it's a 3 hour movie, man.
Yeah.
This isn't even like, oh, we didn't have time. Like, bitch, it's a 3 hour epic.
We did.
Yeah.
There was not even CGI. You literally hired 50,000 extras and you couldn't
Yeah.
hire them. What the fuck?
Couldn't hire one other black person.
One,
Yeah,
not
jeez.
one. Just like, all right. Anyways, moving on to Prince of Persia. So the whitewashing was very hard to watch in 2023. It was like, I've watched this movie when it came out in 2010. I didn't have a problem with it then because I didn't notice then, right? And so looking back now, you go, oh, this is an issue. It's
Yeah.
it's really bad. I enjoyed Jake Gyllenhaal's performance, but I'm also acknowledging he should not have had the part. That
Sure.
should not have been his part. But I didn't get that he was Jake Gyllenhaal. I got that I was all for it. He was the hero. He was whatever, blah blah. I did enjoy the fact that, as in the video games, they had the whole bouncing off the walls, the whole Ninja Gaiden thing, like they do in the video games.
I like that as well. I
I
thought
like
Yeah,
that
that
it
was
was
okay.
very
Yeah.
reminiscent to the game for
Right.
sure.
And they did the whole swinging thing where he swung and you got to get
Mhm.
up, and I thought that was cool too. I really dug. Look, here's one thing you guys may not know about me, and I've said this before on other podcasts throughout the years. I am if you have time travel in your movie, I'm fucking in. I'm yours to
I'm
lose.
kind of the same, yeah.
I'm yours to lose. If you have time travel, just the fucking whole point of time travel, I find so fascinating.
Mhm.
The whole idea of time travel is so fascinating to me that if you have that in your movie, I'm automatically in. It's now you have to. It's one of those things where it's like I'm yours to lose.
Right.
Like you have to really fuck it up for me to be like, man, that time travel movie sucked. Like you have to really work hard at fucking that movie up for me. So I dug the I like the fact that there was an actual storyline again, because my history with Prince of Persia, as we talked about, is very point A to point B pitfall type of deal.
Yeah.
Right.
I dug the storyline. I was like, this is really cool. They dug this, like I was like into it. The animation holds up, which is not necessarily true for movies that are
No.
13 years old. They
That's not necessarily true for movies that were a year old now.
exactly go back to watch
It's
Joss
so
Whedon.
sad.
Go back to watch Joss Whedon's Justice League and let me know
Yeah.
if you fucking feel the same way about that animation.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
to
so
be-
weird
to
when
be
you can
fair,
see when
though-
quality animate. It's so CGI is so weird because you go back and look at some of the shit in Jurassic Park looks wacky, but the really good stuff you can tell where they sunk the money and still holds up. It looks real, and then you go to movies like you said, like Justice League, which was like a $300 million production or something, and they were like, skip on the CGI or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, what?
There's one thing that I do know about this movie, and I respect beyond a shadow of a doubt, is the stunt coordination for sure.
Yeah.
Because
They did a good job.
the stunt coordination in this movie and the locations, because
That was a good thing.
barely anything in this movie is blue screen, which is why it still holds up. You know, because there's not much going on CGI wise other than like him going back in time and like the blurry kind of vision thing, and like, you know, a lot of things that they're doing. It might not be Jake Gyllenhaal, but it's a
But
stunt guy.
even the fucking
know?
like even the snakes coming out of the ground and attack. For you know what? If I you know what? To your point, Mike, I was thinking while I was watching this movie, I was like, is this in the 3D era? Because remember when they were making 3D movies and they're
Yes,
like
everything-
everything was like coming at you in the
Yes,
screen?
dude. Yeah.
Oh
And I
my
was like,
God.
was this made for that 3D era where like
Probably.
because there were
Probably.
certain scenes, it didn't happen too much.
Mhm.
But there were some scenes where I was like, you see that like the spikes that those guys shot through from the arm thing. I was
Yeah.
like, are they? Was this made specifically for that 3D situation?
Yeah, probably.
But to your credit, like the snake coming at you, like I thought, So the CGI, you're right, it wasn't overly done with the CGI aside from the time travel portions. Interesting what you said before, Mike, when you talked about like, oh, it's like a Pirates of the Caribbean. They made that like that's really so. When you look at the
Oh, I know it's the same person. That
no,
made
but
it.
when you look at the Wikipedia, they talk about the canceled sequel. The film, they say, was intended to be part of the start of a new franchise, similar to Pirates of the Caribbean,
Of course.
as a swashbuckling adventure series. The disappointing box office returns, combined with the mediocre reviews are dispelled any interest in the and what does it say? Mediocre reviews and disappearing interest in the games led to the sequel being abandoned. So I say that to say this: the budget was anywhere it listed from 150 to 200 million dollars. The box office was $336 million.
Oh wow.
It made its money back, and
Yeah,
then
did.
some.
but
And
it's
then they were
not,
like, "No, it's
not
disappointing."
Disney. It's not a Disney success. Does that
So
make sense?
then,
Yes, I know. And Disney fucking
so
has
then I looked
unrealistic
it up.
shit.
I said, what was Black Pearl's um return?" And Black Pearl
Bro,
was
that
listed
movie-
at $150 million, and that movie made back 830, like 800.
Yeah, of course.
That
That's
movie's
what happens.
still making money.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
like it's just.
Well, I'm sure if you release Black Pearl today in the theater, it would probably make another $500 million. I bet.
I completely agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Disney, and this is something I was trying to say, or I wanted to say to you guys, was Disney's been trying to remake, or not remake, but recapture the amount of money that they made for Pirates of the Caribbean
So
for
the
like
Pirates of the
10
Caribbean,
years.
So Pirates of the
Well, I mean,
Caribbean was
Pirates of the
140
Caribbean,
million, 140 million
Avengers.
dollar, $140 million budget, and the box office was 654.3 million.
Yeah.
Good.
So when I first saw Prince of Persia, I'm like, but it made it back. It made back his money. How is that disappointing? And then you look at Black Pearl, you go,
Yeah.
yeah, I got that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Very disappointing, Prince of Persia. Very disappointing.
But that's why.
Yeah, very
that's
disappointing.
why
You
they
only
made-
made double your budget. It
Yeah, you only made
sucks.
double your budget. You
You
and then,
loser.
I mean, but that's the way movies. That's the way people are like. That's why people are like, "Oh, Batman versus Superman." I have an argument with this friend of mine who was like, "How can Batman versus Superman be a disappointment? It made $850 million." I'm like, but it was like they wanted it to make over $1 billion.
Right.
Yeah.
They wanted it to be Avengers. Yeah,
To them, it was a disappointment.
well, it's
Yeah.
the same thing like Nintendo and not Nintendo. I'm sorry, Disney. They did this thing when the video games where they had the miniatures that tied into a video game, right? And you could play it
Yeah.
on the screen or
Oh,
whatever.
right.
And I literally, they canceled it, and I was like, why? Everybody I knew, like 30 and 40-year-olds, were into it as well as the kids. Like they captured a huge market, and then suddenly they were just gone, and I was like, what happened? Because even I was into it. I have a whole box of that stuff somewhere.
Mhm.
And they were like, there was literally a quarterly meeting call at for one of their shareholder meetings, and they're like, well, it's making money, but it's not making like all the money. So
That's
could be
the
making
thing.
more money. And I'm like,
They were like, Chad and his friends like it, but nobody else does. So
yeah.
One of my buddies, Mark Blutman, he used to write for Boy Meets World, and he's
second episode in the row that Mike drops his name. Go ahead, continue.
is it really?
Yeah, second episode. You're like, friend of the podcast and future guest on.
I had no idea. I didn't know that I talked
I'm
about.
okay with that.
talked about Mark.
I'm down on something. I was just talking to Will Smith about that, so I feel. You.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Anyway,
I was talking to Anthony the other day. Hopkins.
Yeah. Anthony Hopkins. Yeah. No, but anyway, he's doing the there's a writer's strike right now, and so they're at Disney, and he took a photo of the Disney studio, and the Disney studios, like the pillars of Disney Studios, are the dwarves. And so he's like, how can you expect to ask for more money from Disney if they have dwarves holding their building? It's like, it's so true. Like, even if something made $100 million, they're like, nah, not good enough.
$100 million profit. It literally made $150 million profit.
Mhm.
So you're saying that you spent $150 million, but you got back $350 million.
Yeah.
Like that's still a fucking profit. Like it's not.
Yeah.
I just like I would love to be at that tax bracket.
Yeah, right.
That's where that's your concern is like
Where that's your failure.
As much that's my failure. Is like, oh man, can you please, as one of my opening credits, please don't mention the fact that I made something that got back double my money. Can you please just don't? Yeah, because it only got back double my money.
I'm sure that's how Will Smith feels about
it's
chasing
rough.
Amy.
I wish I could.
Right? Like
I'm pretty
he was-
sure chasing Amy was like a fucking favor for somebody. Where it's like, this is a
Yeah.
1-day shoot.
Yeah, it was definitely
said-
a one-day
You
shoot
said
for
Will
sure.
Smith. You said Will Smith. Or you
Yeah,
said
Will Smith.
Ben Affleck.
No. I meant, you know what it was? I meant
It's not chasing Amy. It was
it's Jersey Girl.
Yeah,
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Jersey Girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was
I knew
definitely
exactly what
like-
you were saying, but I was like, wait, chasing Amy.
Yeah. No, chasing Amy's great.
About great, but all right. All right.
Loved it.
So,
I liked it.
I think it's
let's
great.
check. Yeah. You know that movie, Chase. Like I feel like Kevin James movies is right up both your guys' alley.
Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith, you mean?
Is
I
it
love. I
is that what I said?
no.
Did I
Well,
not say-
Kevin James is
Oh,
best
Kevin
art of
James.
all
Oh,
time.
yeah. Kevin James is right up my alley. That's where the different
Yeah.
James are.
Don't
My
worry, there's funny jokes about Kevin Smith getting mistaken for Kevin James all the time.
Oh, all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, it happens all the time. They look exactly the same.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So Prince of Persia, Rotten Tomatoes is 37% critic score. For 230 reviews is 37%. So it's rotten. My
Mhm.
question to you, as I pose to everybody, is audience score higher or lower, and by how much? Based upon 250,000 plus reviews.
It's definitely higher. Because there are some weirdos, man. Like if there's Amazon reviews of people
I
that
thought you're like, there's some weirdos, and I'm raising my hand like,
bro, if there's Amazon reviews about how great the third Ninja Turtles movie is, there's definitely
oh my god, yes, bro. What the fuck is wrong
Oh.
with these people, dude?
I hate it.
like
Somebody,
trust
you know,
me.
I
there's
don't
some
know if you
weird
know,
people.
I don't know if you ever met Will Watkins, Mike. He was a comedian down here in South Florida. He's been up in New York for like 10 years now, but
Never met, but he's very funny.
Super funny, and he's a great follow on Instagram and Twitter. He's like really like funny. And at one time he told me he's like Ninja Turtles 3 is his favorite Ninja Turtles movie, and he says that like I don't give a fuck, and I was like, what? Like he makes fun of me for liking DC movies. I'm like, you like Ninja Turtles 3? There's no like you can never hold anything against me. I don't give a fuck what I like. You like Ninja Turtles 3, and for it to be your favorite, oh no, we can't have this.
Even Jim Henson was like, I don't want to be a part of this movie. like
Yeah.
like he died before it was made on purpose.
Yeah,
Like
take me now. He's like, oh, we have another treatment. Nah. Take me. So what do you think it is? What do you think the audience score is?
Like, oh, that's what I'm gonna go out on.
I'm gonna see
so-
what was the audience or what was the critics score
Critics,
again?
37 is critics.
37.
Yeah.
40 37. Speaking of Kevin Smith.
Yeah, really.
41.
41. Okay.
I'm gonna go lower and put it 25 because I don't know what people are talking about with this movie.
Really? Okay. Well,
Yeah, too much faith in humanity.
What did you have? What did you say it was?
Me, 25.
No, Mike.
31.
31. It is. So both of you said it was lower than the critics.
No, he went higher. Right?
No, I went higher.
Critics is 37.
Oh,
Yeah, he went to
37, 41 then. 41.
So you said 41.
Mm-hmm.
It is actually at 58%.
Wow.
It was 2% away from being fresh, because 60 is where is that is. I think it's 60. I believe it's 60. If I'm not
Is
wrong.
it 68%? Yeah.
60%. I believe that 60% is fresh.
That makes sense.
So yeah,
More
it's
than
two
half.
away. I'm one of those 58%, man. I like this movie. I absolutely agree with the whitewashing is awful. I didn't think they shouldn't have done it. But I still like his performance in the movie. But I just think that he should not have gotten that movie to begin with. I would say this: as much as whitewashing goes, this is not the most grotesque whitewashing in history,
Of
and it
course
doesn't even come close. And here's the thing: it's not even. I think Al Pacino in Scarface is way worse.
Yes.
Not only is it way worse as far as whitewashing is concerned, but it's way worse in performance, because that performance was fucking hot dog shit, and people love it. People love it. They fucking quote that movie and they forget. I'm like, but you're quoting, not only are you quoting a whitewashed part, but you're quoting an awfully done whitewashed part.
You can't get a Fade in Miami without hearing a quote from that movie.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, it's true. Like every barbershop in the world has their that fucking poster.
Yeah. Has two replica guns, and they're like, these are the guns that they used in Scarface. Okay, cool, man.
Yeah, sure.
Like every barbershop has the same one.
How many guns they had, apparently.
So yeah, so that's that. What would be your rating, Mike, for Prince of Persia?
I would say 2.3 bronzer tanner things. That's what they used for
2.3 twos of bronzer.
Yeah,
all right,
bronzer.
2.3 twos of bronzer. Chad, what would you rate it?
I would give it 2 daggers.
Two daggers. Two daggers.
He would use those daggers to not watch this movie, to go back and.
Man, this movie is still better than fucking Wonder Woman 84.
You're 100% right. Yes.
Wonder Woman.
Oh, that's a tough call for me. I don't know. Yeah, I like Wonder Woman.
Oh,
Dude, Wonder Woman 84 was a hot pile of dog shit.
I
That movie
love
was
Wonder
awful.
Woman, but fuck, dude, that was.
Yeah.
And I'm a DC fan, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, can we just not?
Especially because the first movie was so good.
Yeah,
That's
that
why
is
it hurt.
That is why it hurts so much.
That's why it hurt.
Wonder Woman was damn near a perfect movie.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
You're talking to somebody who literally can make an argument for the original Suicide Squad.
Oh, I love the Suicide Squad.
Okay.
No,
Yeah,
the
I
first
mean,
one, not the
Yeah,
James
yeah,
Gunn one. the first one.
no.
So you're talking, and I still can't look at Wonder Woman 84. I still can't say anything. Again, I'm not one of those guys that I trash talking movies. So if I don't like it, I just move on and go, I don't like it, and move on. I don't spend my time fucking publicly trash talking a movie because hundreds of people put fucking effort into that shit. So I just be like, I don't like it. It was dog shit, but we move on, right?
Right.
But Wonder Woman 84 is a hard fucking sell, bro.
Yeah, it's real hard.
Prince of Persia. I'm gonna go with 4 street rat riffraffs out of 5.
Nice.
Because that's all I thought
I
about.
don't buy that.
Yeah, all I thought about in the scene when he's like, "You boy," and he's like, "Street rat." Riff
Yep.
Raff,
I thought a lot about Aladdin in this movie.
That's so good. Yeah, I like this movie, dude. I do this movie. The whitewashing is very difficult to take in 2023. Absolutely, no qualms about that. But for some reason, people don't have a problem with Ben Kingsley, which is also British and white, playing in this movie.
He played Gandhi, so it's fine.
Another whitewashing role. Like I like the fact that the defense for Ben Kingsley being in Prince of Persia is that he also whitewashed in another more famous movie that got him an Academy Award nomination. Like, but he was whitewashing in that too.
I think, did he get nominated? I think he won.
I don't know if he won, but I know for a fact he got nominated. I don't remember if he won. But fucking egg. I mean, isn't that the? That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know about Hollywood. That's all you need to know about Hollywood is that they're like blatantly whitewashing a historical figure, and then they're like, no, yeah, give him the Oscar. What the fuck?
He was up for Malcolm X.
Wait a minute, Little Mermaid is black. What the fuck? There's gonna be picket signs. Oh, we lost Chad.
Yeah, Chad just couldn't handle it. He likes Ben Kingsley too much.
He's like, fuck this. I'm not here for this Ben Kingsley talk. All right, guys. Thank you for checking us out. Check out the other podcasts on the Geekboard Network that include, but are not limited to, Better Let Me Tell You, Chow Like a Best with Mike Valdez, Kick Flicks, Cramacopia with Jeff and Q, the What's Up Bro podcast, which is gonna come back at some point. I've been very busy this year with work, and the cruise ships Wi-Fi's have been just hot garbage shit. So thank you guys for checking us out. A Shiver, the horror movie podcast, of course. So make sure you go to geekbro.net, check out all your podcasts. Mike, appreciate you. Make sure you check out Mike's comedy. You could go check him out at thatkidfromup.com.
Yep, and I have merch there too, just like this. It's the Viewfinder.
The Viewfinder t-shirt. By the way, I'm totally gonna steal your audio when you like buy my t-shirt. I'm totally taking that when I post about my merchandise. I loved it. I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Buy my t-shirts. Buy my t-shirts too.
Yeah, buy Nary Signs t-shirts.
So, but I love Mike's t-shirts, man. The Viewfinder, the whole thing, it's fucking dope. So make sure you go to thatkidfromup.com.
Yep.
That's Mike Valdez with an S. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for checking us out. And that's how reviews are done.